Hello and welcome to Star Citizen Sunday with me, Ryan, aka Sifu Messiah. This is a weekly show which covers everything from the world of Star Citizen over the past week. Links can be found in the description for everything we discuss, so let's get on with it. So this week we have Around the Verse, the Baby PU update, and an exciting design post on the changes coming to the flight model. I decided to miss off the 10 for the producers as it was more focused on managing a project or managing a team and their personal preferences, etc. So nothing really attuned to gameplay, which I prefer to stick to. I have, however, provided a link in the description should you want to watch it. If you are still to sign up to the RSI website, please use my referral code as shown on screen or in the description, and you'll receive 5,000 United Earth credits which can be spent in the Voyager Direct store for your ships, your character, or whatever you choose. You don't have to spend anything to sign up. It's only once you pledge that I'll be granted an RP point, which will get me some little rewards in the future. So on this week's Around the Verse, episode 2.05, it started with Sandy and Ben telling us that they will be heading off to Austin for next week as they will be catching up with the team there. Also presenting the next Around the Verse in Austin. They want to show other people working on the game rather than just the usual Santa Monica team that we see all the time. So they're going to be going around the studios, I assume, at every different studio, recording an episode there just so that we can get used to the other people. Also, they pointed out that there was a bar citizen group, which apparently a group of citizens are meeting in Red's Porch in Austin, which I believe would be a bar there. So if you are in Austin or you are close by, head down there and have a beer with some fans. So straight on to news from around the verse, starting with Santa Monica CIG as usual. They are working hard on the Constellation Merlin Bay and Caterpillar Tech Design 2. Swiftly on to Austin, Texas. They are revamping the UI for the shopping experience. They're working towards the shopping milestone, as we know. Kasaba Outlet is in the works and it's now laid out and in white boxing, swiftly going on to the final art stage. They're also working on the camera dampening for first-person emotes, because when you dance in Art Court, it becomes a little sickly apparently, so they're just dampening that a little bit so you don't end up barfing all the time. So Foundry 42 in the UK, they are working on 2.0 as we know. They do the first pass of the repair, which is the little drones that we see flying out and repairing the Constellation from the video. They did say that when the PU hits, it'll be more physical. You will be getting your hands dirty. This is just the first iteration because it kind of gives a bit of continuity to the game itself, so you can take damage and then you'll be able to keep going after you've been repaired. They're also working on background events to show certain areas are alive. So these things will depend on which area you are in. For example, things like pirates versus the UEE is quite prevalent. So you will see UEE patrols, pirates and traders. The AI will also interact with one another as well. So pirates will attract traders and the patrols will attack the pirates. So it's going to feel very much alive. It's not just going to be a static backdrop of nothingness really. So that's good to hear. Also, if AI ships take damage, you will see them physically getting repaired with the drones as well. A nice little touch. So Foundry 42 in Frankfurt, they just gave us an office tour. There wasn't much to see there, but it was interesting all the same. He didn't say anything or bring any light to any situations, but it was lovely to see how the office is laid out. After that, Jared sat down with Pete Mackay and Josh Pritchett. They're talking about the upcoming flight models. As we know, there is going to be changes to the IFCS for 2.0. Now these will include precision flight, space combat maneuvering and cruise control, and each one is for a different area or aspect of Star Citizen. Obviously precision is for moving closer to other ships, mining, when you need more control over your ship rather than speed. Space combat maneuvering is the most similar to what we currently have now in Arena Commander. This basically gives you the best velocity that you can with keeping your maneuverability as high as possible as well, and like a balance so that you're able to compete and fight when attacked. The final one was cruise control or cruise mode, which is a really high speed, about 1,000 meters a second, which is still work in progress, and you will be able to travel that fast but will have much less maneuverability. It's sort of a mix between space combat and quantum travel. Now this is useful for just either escaping, running away, or traveling from one point to the next without the need of using your quantum travel. Now I won't go into too much of what they've said here because there should have been a design post explaining how the new IFCS changes will behave, so I shall cover it all then. From there, we had a little discussion about the star map audio. It's sort of a behind the scenes video of how it was created. Now I'm not going to go into it because a lot of it is quite technical and you'll be much better just hearing it yourself. So if you are interested, please follow the links in the description to the Around the Verse episode and then follow the links in their description to get to the point. We had a little Empire Report announcement, which I personally thought was absolutely awesome, and I cannot wait to see more new shows, including my own with my Reliant once that new module or variant comes out. But they said there was an explosion on Mars. Very, very cool. I'll put it up now for you to see, and I'll shut up and let you watch it.
This is Alan Nuevo from the Empire Report with some breaking news. We've just begun receiving reports that a large industrial explosion has occurred on Mars. We now go to Victoria Hutchins, who was on another assignment when the explosion occurred. Victoria?
That's right, Alan. It was about an hour ago that I was awoken, along with many others in Port Renatus, by a loud explosion. While details are still unconfirmed, a large plume of smoke appears to be rising from the Shubin Interstellar Refinery, who runs a very busy geological operation here. Again, no further details about the extent of the damage or injuries have been made public as of yet. Back to you, Alan.
Thank you, Victoria. Keep it here for further details as they come in, and expect a full update on tonight's Empire Report 2260.
So after that, we went back to Sandy and Ben, and the most valuable post was the Stargazer, and he was in zero-G flight amongst one of those planes, I think, where it takes you up and drops you or does something with you that causes zero-G. And he had his little constellation model just flipping around. Very, very cool. I wanted to say a big thank you to the Operation Pitchfork organisation for their operations manual. And again, this looks amazing. It's so cool. I hope they offer them for sale because I'd love to have one on my shelves. Anyway, after that, the final thing we saw was the sneak peek, and it's another ship-style board. One of the Jean Scouts again. This is number 2 of 4, so I assume we'll go through all the different design boards. Anyway, that was Around the Verse. Please tell me your thoughts. Let's move on. So on this week's Star Marine and Alpha 2.0 update, they say they are really not far from delivering the huge amount of content to us, but game development, they say, is a complex process that takes time for it to be a good user experience. They will release it the very moment it's good and ready. They've got the ships and environment ready. They're very much into the polishing phase of the release. They're avoiding major new additions to the code base to avoid risks of knock-ons. And there's been a big push to the back end of the development cycle, so it's at an acceptable frame rate, and they're not quite there yet. Now, one exciting thing is the story element, which is not seen or even felt in Arena Commander. There's new computer system voices for things like airlocks, comm arrays, terminals and vending machines, which bring it to life. And in one scenario, they say picking up a job from your Mobiglass as a space technician and then left to explore the environment, investigating the backstory of events, taking on pirates, working with the UEE security teams, and doing things whichever way you wish, which does sound exciting. Now, they have put together mixed armor sets for 2.0, and apparently the default loadout will be light marine armor, an RSI helmet, 2 med pens, your EVA jets, and an arc-light laser pistol. The P4AR ballistic rifle is available as a pickup on the Korea station, which is where the FPS is likely to take place. Star Marine work does continue too, but 2.0 is priority as FPS will affect both. So expect more on Star Marine after the 2.0 is launched. So in the gameplay and engineering side, they've added energy recharge stations to various satellites. They have added feedback for locked Easy Hab pods. They have finalized research satellite method of mission giving. They're moving EA to an improved physical control model, implementing ragdoll animations while in EVA, and there's a little video on this. There's a first pass implementation of the Retaliator breaking apart. They say it's more visually impressive and realistic. Lots of performance optimizations and improvements. Lots of bug fixing. Also, procedural weapon animation work is still in progress. They say recoil is feeling good. Ammo boxes are broken and they are investigating. So in the UI department, multi-crew screens, mission manager UI and quantum travel UI is being polished. The general reticle is getting polished. They've done the first pass and simplified main menu so that players don't have to load into the hangar every time, and also lots of bug fixing. In the art department, they say the Constellation, the Retaliator and the Cutlass Black are all flight ready, which is amazing news. They've updated them to support new damage tech and multi-crew functionality. Also, final lighting polish for the space station's interiors. Layout and signposting changes to the CryAstro fuel facility, which makes you think maybe we can go inside and explore. As you land on the landing pad, you can see some stairs going into the station itself, which will be exciting to see. Space Station exterior lighting pass. Implementation of multi-crew ship damage visual effects, including exterior effects from minor damage to 100% explosions. Interior effects like the cockpit. The Crusader map ambient effects include airlock pressurize and depressurization. Derelict space station ambience and giant asteroid field ambience. The repair drone effects, ship landing dust and quantum travel have had polishes as well. So in animation, they are refining the base character locomotion, rifle animation set is reviewed, and rifle look poses for fire are fixed. So audio, they have made improvements to ship flyby sounds, they are finalising audio for map locations, and bug fixing. And finally, the blocking issues are frame rate is very sluggish at times. There's a few crashes which is blocking it with the communication array gameplay. EVA needs to be more responsive and much less buggy. Walking onto a ship can disable flight functions, which is definitely a no-go. Server crashes when AI fire a weapon, and also EVA needs to support weapon usage. So this is just not every single thing, but the main ones that I think are more important. Tell me your thoughts. It sounds like it's getting very, very close, and I am very excited to see this 2.0 gameplay. So, as mentioned in Around the Verse, we were given this design document or design post on Star Citizen Alpha 2.0 flight model. Now, these are changes to the IFCS to make flight a lot more realistic and a lot more controllable and useful, really. So, there's going to be 3 different flight modes: Precision, Space Combat Maneuvering, or SCM, and Cruise. Now, they say you can only use one of them at any time. You can use them coupled or decoupled to allow for further customization as well. So to begin with, we'll talk about precision mode, and this is what you'll be automatically set to when you are taking off. So you start out in this mode, and this reduces your maximum velocity and rescales your throttle and acceleration for improved control. So instead of hitting the forward button or the strafe button and then suddenly shooting off to the right or the left or whatever, it's going to be a lot more slower, so you'll have more control over your maneuvering. As it said before, it'll help around asteroids when mining, it'll help around derelict ships when you are trying to salvage, and also in-flight fueling or boarding, it will be very beneficial as you do not go smashing into the ship you are trying to take. Now the next one is SCM, or Space Combat Maneuvering, and this is the closest to what we currently have in Arena Commander. Its maximum velocity is now calculated as a function of force and mass as well, so any changes to the acceleration of your ship with your loadout and cargo, etc., will impact the maximum speed. But they did say that upgrading maneuvering thrusters will result in a higher maximum velocity, which is cool because we get to upgrade our ships as we know. Now, something else he said is that this speed is determined by the strongest turning axis of the ship, which means that the best drift control will be achieved by turning on the strong axis rather than the weak axis. Now, they say that each ship will have a strong and weak axis, and it's up to the pilot to learn them and fly to their strengths. So this is something cool. Like each ship is going to feel unique. So you may be good at one ship, at piloting one ship, but when you pilot a different ship, you will have to relearn its mannerisms, if you please. So they also have something called Afterburner, which is another benefit to the SCM. Currently, the boost mechanic gives you better acceleration and drift control. Afterburner will give you a greater maximum velocity while maintaining the same relative control. And how it works is that in Space Combat Maneuvering mode, the top speed is set according to your ability to accelerate to a given velocity in a set time. Boost, as it is, will stay, but you'll now have the choice on how to spend your fuel, as that fuel works with both the afterburner and boost. So either maximum velocity to rapidly change the distance, or better braking to improve handling, so it's up to you. Now the third mode is cruise control, and this is for longer distance travel within the same local system or area. It gives the pilot greater velocity at an expense of control. So the top speed is very, very high, but acceleration remains the same, and it says that reaching top speed takes about 15 to 20 seconds, which is pretty cool. I do like the idea of engaging cruise control, or cruise speed, and having to count down the seconds until you reach that maximum velocity. But it did say that coming to a stop can take much longer, and you'll have, as they said, much less control for this, so you've got to be very careful. And the reason for this is that the IFCS enforces controlled turning, so you don't enter an uncontrollable slide. They say it's more about adjusting course than actually turning. As said before, decoupled mode can always be used to rotate at cruise speed, meaning that you can use your boost to stop like we do currently with single-seater ships, but attempting to change course at 90 degrees by using decoupled mode will grant higher levels of G-force and may black out or red out depending on how hard you try and force this. So also coming with 2.0 is quantum leap, or quantum travel, and this is a place where all ships are limited to 0.2c max speed, or 0.2 speed of light, or whatever it is. Once active, ships will quickly accelerate up to 0.2, and they say that in shorter jumps you may never even get to that speed. Now at these speeds, the tiniest of angle variations will result in massively different flight paths. And this will actually be, it says, where slower ships will have a chance to escape the following ships. So if you are able to maneuver slightly, just the slightest angle, your eventual end destination will actually change because of how fast you are going. It says the ship's computer will automatically pull you out of quantum travel if a possible collision is detected or the ship has any down shields. So it sounds like if your shields are not at 100%, descent, you will not be able to quantum travel, which is something we haven't heard before, which does kind of make you think, you need to focus all your energy onto, or all your power on your shields and quantum engine, otherwise you ain't going to go anywhere. So, the flight control modules and upgrades, it says it's from the very beginning, they wanted the flight control software to be a physical item within the game world. Currently, it's behind the scenes as an XML file. Now, much work has been done to make it physical and be able to swap it out and upgrade. They will allow designers to tune and balance their ships and thruster upgrades to give more flexibility, giving unique characteristics. So soon, players will be able to upgrade their flight control system along with thruster hardware to build a ship that suits their style, which is excellent. In terms of balancing, they say, with the change to the flight system, ships will feel quite different from what they're used to in Arena Commander. The changes are likely to kick off a passionate debate, they say, about the old versus the new, and they are confident that the changes will allow the ships to feel more real and have unique personalities. I am all for this, because currently the ships do feel good, but yes, the only differences are sort of turning angles and top speeds and so forth. So this should play more into the realism and the immersion. It says erratic actions for evasive maneuvers are nerfed naturally since the system is slightly slower to the contrary actions. The motion is also much more natural to the human brain as well to internalize, so it will feel more intuitive, which is very, very good. So you won't feel like it's a bigger learning curve. You'll know it's quite complicated, but you'll adapt to it much quicker. The first pass to PTU is simply a first pass, they say, and it is intended to set the general tone of the direction for each ship, so it will continue to playtest and fine-tune along with our suggestions. So next up is thrust shunting. Now this is a process by which thrust is generated in the main engine and then pushed through the pipe system to the various nozzles where the force is used, which means that engines will be far more important than we have ever seen before. And they say down the line they can have full engine rooms for capital ships, which that's where you'll find Scotty. So this is instead of having engines all over the ship, which is currently how it's set. You'll now have actuated nozzles, which is where all the thrust comes from. So they say if the main engine gets damaged, then all maneuvering thrusters will go with it. And when this happens, ships will have internal gyros that can be used for emergency or ultra-low power maneuvers, so you'll be weak and you'll be slow, but you'll be able to move. Now this will open up new opportunities for damaging ship flight behaviours, and again it'll play into the whole repair mechanic and I suppose the survivability of you and your crew. They say a damaged thruster pipe would scale down the available thrust at the nozzle and could introduce unintended thrust at the point of damage, which sounds incredible. So this would sort of play into maybe EVA repair, or if you have to find it within your ship and then patch it up so that the thrust isn't bursting outside in a different direction. The nozzles have heat and power rating limited to the total thrust available. This may be exceeded at your own risk and result in flight behaviours enforced by the design of the ship. Instead of components, a skilled pilot will be able to push to the absolute limit. So this goes into sort of maybe overclocking like what we saw in Firefly. So next section is thruster error and turbulence. And up to this point, the IFCS has had full control of your ship and its ideal state. So with the new release, there will always be some level of thruster and system error overlaid on light control. This will manifest as minor turbulence in optimal operational conditions, but be more extreme due to thruster damage, overheating and other factors. And we can see some images of how this will look. The second image shows the effects of random thruster error. So it's going to have certain errors here and there. And again, I assume this would depend a lot on the price that you have paid for your thrusters. Now the last image shows velocity error and feedback correction of the IFCS reaction control system, or the RCS. And this tries to maintain the attitude set by the pilot. Imperfect thruster performance will generate small amounts of play, but under extreme damaged conditions, it will be much more noticeable and take much more control of your ship. This is something that is just incredible, and I can just imagine being on board any ship that's a multi-crew ship and having either flying it and feeling these little errors and thruster errors that are kicking you about a bit, and having someone go down and try and patch it up and reroute the power or whatever. It's just going to be amazing. So they say the goal for combat in Star Citizen is frenetic and fast-paced action while rewarding thoughtful tactics and planning, which means different things at different ship scales. For most ships, the lowest common denominator is rotation. Crew safety limits the really big ships from pulling aggressive flips, etc. And skilled ship pilots will try to take unavoidable impacts with their shields and armour where they are the strongest. So rotation inputs will also improve with the addition of the input stabilization mode, which clamps rotation to the lowest maximum rate available, which I assume you'll switch to either in SCM or whatever, so it automatically adjusts it for you. They say ships are generally built to favour main engines, although strength ratios are very much the personality of each vessel. This means drift, it says. Flight manoeuvres will require a bit of thinking ahead. It will make shooting easier, but taking damage is a big part of Star Citizen and something they will support at every level. So the choice to include multiple components of each type allows for ships to remain operational at much greater levels of damage. After the fight, your hull will be scarred, or if things are looking a bit dire, you'll be able to repair ships in the field. It would be a good idea to take care of failing coolant lines before it leads to an unchecked engine breach or full power plant meltdown. That will blow up your ship. Also, with the ability to take more damage, battles will last longer, meaning increased management of fuel, heat, G-forces, etc, etc. Now this is something that's, again, it's so in-depth and so incredible to see how far they are taking this. The engineer will play a massive, massive role without even flying or firing a shot. And as they say, ships will take more damage because the components will be stored inside the ship. So the components will likely be okay, but things like thrusters and items like that will hinder your ship quite considerably, but you would still be able to carry on and fight. So in terms of balance, it will take some time to get right. In the smaller ships, they say maneuverability is king. Larger ships can afford larger periods of vulnerability, and as the upcoming repair mechanics or shields manipulation and pipe routing offers a ship plenty of ways to improve the situation under fire. Now the larger the ship, the more tactical forethought is required, and with positioning and management of ship resources becoming more detrimental. So they say that ship-to-ship combat should remain fun and fair, even when a cargo ship is being ambushed by pirates or a capital ship is taken on a single sheeter ship, as loss of property and life comes at a very high price. They want it to be skill-based, but also have the sense of progression in the position universe, and a Hornet F7C should be objectively better than a Mustang Alpha, but they don't want the differences to be so extreme, so that an Alpha pilot would never be able to win. They say Star Citizen is about choices: which ship, which components, what crew, what routes, where and when to store cargo. Each ship has personality, each weapon has trade-off, each path has dangers. The goal is not to make all things to all players, but to create an ecosystem which players can find the exact right mix. Now again, the balance is obviously very important, and it sounds like there will be a lot of balancing and a lot of time to get it right to what we want it to be. But if they're going to make sure that people don't just instantly die the minute they get into the PU, then that is excellent news. And finally, the statement they left with was, there's no perfect ship, only the perfect ship for you. So that was the planned IFCS changes. Now, there are so much to this that are just revealing more gameplay modes, more ideas. It is very exciting to see this, and I really cannot wait to get my hands on it. Please tell me your thoughts of what you think of this. Are you excited for it? Can you see some errors coming? Let's get the debate going. So also this week there was a post titled Portfolio Interdimension Software, which tells us the in-fiction history of how Star Marine was created. And finally, a new plain truth was released by the name of Bishop's Betrayal, which I suppose one would assume is referring to Admiral Bishop, however I am yet to read. So that brings us to the end of the show. Thank you for watching, and thank you to our subscribers, plus a massive thank you to our patrons as you make this possible. If you like what we do and want to help us make it better, follow the link in the description to our Patreon page to learn more.